welcome back. Surprise, surprise. Time now for the news with yours truly, I should say. But Parliament wants the next president to be sworn into office on the premises of the House instead of the Independence Square. Now, Majority Leader Oseiche Mensah-Bonsu on Tuesday put the proposal before President Akufo-Addo when he commissioned the Job 600 Annex building to provide additional offices for members of Parliament. Now, Minority Leader Haruna Idrisu appealed to the President for support that will allow for the establishment of a presidential enclave on the premises.
Democracies have parliament, and stronger parliaments make stronger democracies. Responsive and transparent parliaments make our democracy work. I've insisted that the only way our parliament can be stronger is to elevate itself above being a clearinghouse for executive embarrassment, not just this parliament, but all other parliament. Let me conclude by saying that one other matter which remains very dear to the heart of the board and to Professor Michael Quay is for you to support us as you have demonstrated, to have this particular process declared a parliamentary enclave, for us to have a modern infrastructure that befits the purpose of Parliament as a citadel of democracy. I know you've made some commitments, but the commitment we want to see the end of this your tenure. I don't wish to add you another term, so I just say the end of this your tenure that it is done, Mr. President. So if it was done and the parliamentary enclave developed, the better it will be for our democracy. Finally, it's been a matter of discuss with my colleague, the Majority Leader, that some of this edifice, a country which does not honor its heroes, I'm told is not worth dying for. To my left, I think that this administration block can beautifully be named after the late Peter Alajete, and the Job 600 itself be named after Justice D.F. Annan. I accordingly submit a proposal for us to look at in future will determine who else deserves what. The two in particular have made monumental contribution to the growth of parliamentary democracy, particularly Justice D.F. Annan, the way he navigated the delicate balance of an infant, nascent, and maturing democracy.
Members of Parliament are united in the principle that an elected president must be sworn in the presence of Parliament, before Parliament, and indeed in Parliament, as the Honourable J.H. Mensah boldly articulated. The Ghanaian electorate always want to be part of and indeed own the process and procedures of the swearing in of our presidents-elect. The space afforded by the small chamber of Parliament makes it difficult to hold the event in the plenary of Parliament, which is why, conveniently, Parliament elects to sit at the Independence Square on such occasions. On that 7th day of January, the election of the Speaker and Deputy Speakers and the swearing in of members of Parliament have to be concluded before Parliament would relocate to the Independence Square to have the President-elect sworn in before the relocated House of Parliament. It is hard to relate that oftentimes before the sitting is suspended for the House to reconvene at the Independence Square, the public would have generally taken over the sitting of the relocated Parliament. In the event, Parliament, the members are dislodged from what is supposed to be their own house. The members of Parliament, especially those from the party that might have lost the elections, are subjected to vile and vitriolic language in their own house. And Mr. President, sometimes all manner of animals, some of them dressed in party paraphernalia, are paraded in the relocated Parliament. Not surprisingly, most of the members of Parliament who belong to the party that lose out in the presidential and general elections elect not to be part or participate in the proceedings that lead to the swearing in of the President.
Now, former President John Mahama is accusing President Akufo-Addo of refusing to punish Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta over his alleged role in the controversial Ejapa deal because they are related. Mr. Mahama's accusation follows the corruption risk assessment conducted by the special prosecutor on the deal, which said there might have been bid rigging in favor of Databank, a firm closely linked to the minister. Now, addressing the chiefs and people of Ashalebotwe in the Adenta constituency, John Mahama challenged the president to punish the finance minister just as he did the PPA boss.
Bibi oho. Ye katasishe ene proye. Abra NPP omo opposition. Debi omo ka katasishe ene proye ho. Ene eden ne yehu. Se nipa ekoye katasishe anase oye adean se fata. President Akasa ena ebe yi na film akase o debi onye ehwe. After corruption aginsem kra anope ye de Ejapa report aba. Na Ejapa report no kan ebo finance minister sobo. So akwa as a finance minister if he say oye obanpanyin enuanti ontimi enye hwe ontimi yinedi. And so ohwe nya etia PPA boss na entempara your man report na where you say any panedi. Eti near fair justice and equal treatment. Utimisha any home. Eti NDC Besaba. NDC bar. Abra Yawabem say ye nipa eye bonia ye chinaso. And no any thread the fight against corruption. And you say we fear baimu na new abayaba near Befremo Seko Court. Nya eyedin ewo se yekun etia katasise ne proye ene se wan kasa won crofo forma wutimi e de 90 form etwen omoso enti ni ba bebre a omo afom a omo adua sika ewo planado aban mu ewo so de 90 form na otwe omaso.
As the country prepares for what will be a crucial election, leaders of the main parties, the New Patriotic Party and the National Democratic Congress, are being asked to commit to peace and whip their supporters in line. The National Commission on Small Arms and Light Weapons is therefore urging politicians to resolve their differences through dialogue and not armed conflict. The Commission is embarking on the Ballots Without Bullets campaign to sensitize the nation against the use of weapons. The campaign started in the Ododo-Diodio constituency here in Accra. There is more in the following report by Kweku Asante.
As political tensions in some areas of the country rises ahead of this year's crucial election, many stakeholders have raised concerns about the possibility of violent clashes between supporters of the NPP and NDC. Indeed, a little over a week ago, supporters of the NPP and NDC in the Ododo-Diodio constituency in Accra clashed violently, leading to injuries and destruction of properties. The National Commission on Small Arms and Light Weapons is embarking on a campaign and engaging the various political party leaders in selected hotspots identified by the police and urging them to commit to peace. The Ballot Without Bullets campaign by the Commission is a call on political parties to use dialogue and not violence to resolve their differences. Here is Jones Bote Aple, Executive Secretary of the Commission, explaining to Joy News the reasoning behind the campaign.
We want to counter ballots without bullets. We don't want people to die as a result of elections. We want people to live and live peacefully after the elections. And so this program is attitudinal and behavioral change. We want to change people's perception about elections. And when we go for election, it's about electing leadership. It's not about fighting. It's about who presents his ideas and the one that you prefer. So it's just a message that everybody is calling. And so we have come to Ododo because of what happened recently here. The point is that if we don't get to the constituencies to have an engagement or conversation with the candidates, as we all know, there's no war in this world that ended through the bullets.
Member of Parliament for the Ododo-Diodio constituency, where the campaign started, is warning that the party will hand out all elements within who foment trouble ahead of the election.
I stand here today on behalf of the National Democratic Congress, the constituency executive, the entire membership of our party in the Ododo-Diodio constituency, to commit myself to peace before, during, and after the December 7th presidential and parliamentary elections. I do this in the solemn belief that in this constituency, we are a family. And as such, I cannot see myself vandalizing, brutalizing, attacking any member of my family. We stand here committing ourselves to the fact that any member of our party who will be involved in any violence any attack, anything that will disturb the peace, we condemn it and we will not hesitate to hand that person over to the appropriate authorities.
Meanwhile, Neil Antibanaman is an NPP parliamentary candidate in the Odododiodo constituency and has also been committing himself to peace.
Over now to the Oti region, where the regional chairman of the MPP, Evans Dapa, wants the electorate in his jurisdiction to show gratitude to President Akufo-Addo for giving the enclave a regional status by voting massively for him in the December polls. He indicated that it was under the current administration that the Oti enclave gained recognition and allocated major development projects which would enhance the livelihoods of residents. He said this when speaking at the commissioning ceremony of an NPP office in Likpe in the proposed Gwan district of the Oti region.
Mr. Dapa indicated that though the National Democratic Congress has received massive support in the traditional area since the inception of the Fourth Republic, it failed to provide the needed development projects.
The good people of Libe. Nothing to show. Yeah, but they're paying and food try and not to show it. May a package say, one to me now and I don't go to Fado because you are too Abama and an Okufado. Now she don't know Kufado say, young children say, I ain't Chapia Mobati Guan districts. Guan districts. Okay, I want to Abama and that. Was it the district here, Yawo Yasia, Yawo Voter Region Asia, and Yanet. Obia and Vincent the Great Eshababi. And then another young to Abamano, on and they recognize it. On Nama Oti region. And they away a capital with them by. And no for bicycle. We will do them by day. And the little and said, Yasidaba, that's a number one. And the other two, I'm a president of Kufwado.
The Oti Regional NPP Women's Organizer, Olivia Agalago, outlined policies and social interventions being implemented under the Akufo-Addo-led government and appealed to the electorates to vote for the NPP in the December polls.
The secondary school was free day. No be university day. No be university. Nega melewa. Ome hiana garanta. Abiaba student loan. Why is school? Nebe nye mio ehia tota onu yode. Ega to hiana numa.
A staffer at the office of the Vice President, Elizabeth Utuka, presented 13 motorbikes to be distributed to electoral area coordinators to augment their campaign activities.
To wrap up on this morning's bulletin now, one of the mandatory tests the overlord of the Wala Kingdom has to face each year is to jump over a cow. Should any part of his body or the gown he is wearing touch the cow, it is considered to be a bad omen and he may not survive the succeeding year. This ritual also seeks to test his physical strength. Now, 68-year-old Nafuseni Seidu Pelpo IV had this onerous duty at the climax of the centenary celebration of the Dumba festival, watched by thousands of people, including paramount, divisional, and sub-chiefs, leaders of political parties as well. Rafiq Salam reports from Wa.
Tense moments at the forecourt and inside the Wana's palace. Close relatives and daughters of Wana, in pensive mood, with their hearts in their mouths. It is time for the occupant of the century-old Wana's palace to perform his yearly mandatory tax. Entering the court here for the first time, you will mistake it to a mosque or a prayer camp. However, Muslim clerics from the Lemari clan are here on a different mission and united with the family of the Wana by a prayer and a goal. Both of them are well aware of the penalty should he fail to jump over the cow. It is believed that should any part of his body or the gown he is wearing touches the cow, it is seen as a bad omen for the traditional area and he may not live to see the next Dumba festival. The Jami Imam led representatives of the 12 recognized sects in Wa and the Wana to go around the cow 3 times. The Wana sounded majestical round the cow with occasional peeps at it. There was more tension when the drums were sounded for the final round of the walk, and that even reduced the noise level of the crowd. However, the Wana brought life to the scene and made his close relatives jumped and made in uncontrollable mood when he successfully lifted the black sandals worn over his feet over the neck of the dirty white cow. Among the many paramount, divisional and sub-chiefs who joined the people of the Wala traditional area to climax the centenary celebration of the Dumba festival was dancehall artist and chief of Bibli.
You have butterflies in your stomach that one may fail?
No. We believe in the overlord and we know he will always jump over it. You know, age comes with physique and everything. People have seen him when he was younger and he jumped over it swifter than he did today. But every other year he definitely jumps over it, which is the most important. So we are happy that he's been able to go over it this year, and we know he's going to go over it over and over and over again.
Now that he has been able to successfully jump over the cow, he needs to retire to his palace, come out in a different attire, out with his medallion dangling on his neck. Reporting for Joy News, Rafik Salam. Wow.
Our rich culture on full display there all the way from Wa. Well, it's a wrap for the bulletin for this morning. Up next is the news review. Do stick around for that. Welcome on the news review, and it's time for us to dig into the papers and bring you some information as well as about what is happening in the United States. Of course, later on the show, tidbits, more of those tidbits we're going to be sharing with you. But here we are.
Yep.
Another morning, another stack of newspapers. You seem to have fallen in love with the Ghanaian Times.
Oh, yes. I've just seen some stories that I think it will be good to review. That's why I kind of grabbed it and the Daily Dispatch.
Just start with
you want us to start?
Yep.
Okay, all right, let's do it. So to the Ghanaian Times newspaper, front page, can Parliament reconsider a Japa deal? Majority-minority lock horns over agreement. But here on the AM show, we're not even moving to this question yet. We're asking how they feel as big time when this deal went to Parliament the first time. How could they have missed everything that the special prosecutor spotted? So not so quick, Parliament. We're on your case this morning here on the AM show. Ghana on way to become self-sufficient in rice production, says the Agric Minister. I remember the plantain that was 5 cedis, wasn't it? Still can't buy a bunch of it for 5 cedis.
Is it?
No.
After that infamous pronouncement, you know, at the time, people went to market just to check, and they said, Masa, you don't know what is going on in the market.
I went to the woman in Manhattan that I buy plantain. I said, Minister, and they said 5 cedis.
And what was her response?
I said, all right, we're not overprinting ballot papers. EC Paris NDC allegation. Race to White House, Trump or Biden?
Trump or Biden? Can you call it now? I mean, yesterday I was asking you whether it was too close to call. Last I checked, I mean, looking at the electoral votes, college votes, so far 224 per the CNN for Joe Biden, 213 for Donald Trump.
221?
224.
Okay, so
at
the
least
BBC,
per the CNN.
The BBC also says 220 for Biden.
Right,
and 213 for Trump.
So if you look at the checkered, I like the way they, categorize them in blue and red, so you can see that Arizona, for example, is pale blue, which means it's leaning.
Yeah.
It's one of the battlegrounds anyway. Then
In fact,
you have Colorado.
The confidence is coming from Fox News because they called, Arizona for the Democrats. Yeah.
That's interesting.
Okay,
Coming from Fox News.
But Mr. Trump has also been tweeting. He says they want to steal the elections. When we get there, we'll spend a bit of time on the U.S. elections, even in this review. So let's do the local stories first, and then we will get over to that. Let's see, in the center spread of the Ghanaian Times, President launches revised national health policy. And then the Electoral Commission says they're not overprinting the ballots. On the back page, Minister unveils plans to improve solid waste management, and Commission launches World AIDS Day. That's the Ghana AIDS Commission launching this year's World AIDS Day with a call on the public to protect themselves against contracting HIV/AIDS to help reduce the country's disease burden.
I'm going to kickstart from my end with the Finder newspaper. It says, it will be ungratefulness if we don't vote NPP. That is the Sifi Paramount chief saying that. Macabre, I'm done. It will be ungratefulness if we don't vote for the NPP.
We're actually done with them as well.
No, we're done with them. Let's adhere to prescribed COVID-19 protocols to prevent new infections. In recent times, we've been told that we could be about to ride a second wave. And if you look at the uptick in the numbers, I'm just hoping, because especially as we're going to head into an election, more people are going to congregate and all of that. If we have a second wave, it wouldn't be, the best moment for that. So I just pray the numbers remain low. Ghana is becoming a food basket, and your friend is speaking again. When I say your friend, the 5CD man in West Africa and
the food is there, but the food is expensive.
508,000 metric tons of food exported to rake in 791 million Ghana cedis. That's according to the Agric Minister. Now, Finance Ministry commits to adhere to President's directives on Ejapa, albeit after a lot of, explanation, if you like. Now, NDC to float shares in thermal power plants. That's according to Mr. Janapo. And then Rwandan High Commission opens office in Accra to boost business and friendship. That is, the story there. And those are the stories that I'll take this morning from the Finder newspaper.
Let's do the Daily Dispatch. Some interesting headlines in the Daily Dispatch today, apart from what's on the front page. If you go to page 11, for instance, we don't look like we will win, so nobody wants to fund us. Who says that? Can you guess?
I can't
we don't
hazard
look
a guess
like
on this
we'll
one.
win, so nobody wants to fund us. That's so sad. It's really, really sad.
Wait, is that a political party?
Yes, sir.
One of those contesting this year?
Yes, sir.
We don't look like we'll win. So what on earth are they doing there anyway? If you're admitting that you don't look like you'll win, what are you even doing there?
But we've talked about the fact that there are different reasons. I mean, obviously that you won't win. You will not win the popular votes, but you're there for a purpose.
But no one comes out to say it that way. Just yesterday, I was interacting with the PNC's flag bearer, David Apasera. And he was, very upbeat. I mean, all of them are upbeat. So this takes me by surprise, because if you're not, then you shouldn't even be here.
It's the same PNC candidate who says that. Is
really?
That to him? Yes, sir. All right, let me do what's on the front page. This is on page 11. So here's what's on the front page of the Daily Dispatch. Two of the printing houses have been printing ballot papers since 1992, says the Electoral Commission. Is contained in their statement, and basically refuting the allegations by the NDC that they are overprinting ballot papers. They have a statement, and the paper publishes it in today's edition. But as for printing house printing since 1992, dear. I mean, it's not...
The Buck Press is one of those.
Yeah, but I'm just saying
I think
that...
Assembly Press as well. That is, of course, state run.
But they also address the real issues. Also, 444 MPP supporters restored to voters register in Northern Region. Northeast Region becomes the 15th region to get waste treatment facility. Oh, and yeah, David Apasera is saying that they don't look like they will win, so nobody wants to find them.
That's an interesting one.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Yeah,
that would mean that he's been saying different things at different times on different programs. Which program was he on here?
This was, I think they called CTV.
Right.
Yep.
Right. Well, maybe, can we call it political mood swings? So this was in the conversation
that the party currently does not have the needed resources to fund its campaign activities in the lead up to the 2020 polls. So he's just explaining why perhaps they're not getting enough funding, or maybe they're not getting funding at all.
So I don't have a problem with that aspect, but the not being hopeful about winning bit, because yesterday he also indicated to me that in terms of logistics, they have constraints. Yes. In fact, even his campaign, when I asked him about the map and all of that, he said that, look, they are not going to be able to go round like the MPP and the NDC are doing because they simply don't have the wherewithal. But to suggest that because of those constraints you're not going to win, that is a bit new to me.
No, I mean, they are not close to par. Are you saying he can't say that we're not close?
Well,
he knows. I mean, it's a fact, isn't it?
The Daily Guide newspaper now. It says, court sees Takrady Gold's bones. That's on page 6. Bono organizer shocks NPP with goodies. It's that time of the year again. And the goodies are flowing. Wow. Mahama is GO1. Amidu reveals. Interesting picture here. When you look at the front page of the Daily Guide, it actually captures... have you seen this one?
Which one is that?
Him together with Samuel Adam. Mahama, looks very cozy. And you begin to wonder, where did they get this photo from?
Anyway. So how did Airbus find its way in Japan royalties?
Initially I was asking myself, Martin Amidu, you were asked to deal with a Japan. Where from Airbus? This country, SMP. This other story there, Sarkodie Samini endorsed Akufo-Addo. Have you followed this one?
I have.
What is your take?
Oh no, I mean, I think Sarkodie is a smart guy. I like the song. See, it's one of those that if you don't take care, you play and you will not realize that it's actually a campaign song.
Did you hear the Nana Twaso?
So it's one that I think is very creative. I like that's how some other people do it, and I appreciate that a lot. I think that's more creative than the obvious.
Than just going all out and
more
doing
creative than the obvious. So I love it. I don't like the fact that Kwame Eugene says, though, that when he dropped him the lines, he didn't include those ones.
Yeah.
So he didn't think it was an endorsement kind of song.
Right.
I think if that is actually true, then...
Because that's been his case.
Then that's not good.
Yeah.
I mean, then he wasn't truthful. Then it's not
then
appropriate.
Who wasn't truthful?
Sarkodie,
Eugene
obviously. No.
Sarkodie,
because if you're giving me a piece of song, and I'm supposed to do the chorus on it, on your rap, and it didn't contain those bits that's endorsing a political party candidate, you haven't done me any good.
You've not done me justice.
It's not right.
Because then I was flying blind, and only for me to come and realize that, apparently the song is meant to. But some people have also said that it's all about the money.
No.
So why could you be any Let me have my portion.
Beyond that, you know how we play our politics in this part of the country. I think it's absolutely wrong. If he didn't disclose it
ethically,
and he made
it isn't
the
right. And this is the reigning artist of the year. You know how I mean, this country.
It's got a lot of implications.
To be very careful.
I think it's wrong if that's what he did. I pray that that's not what the true story is.
Right. Let me just add this though. The Ivorian situation. We're talking about it just a few days ago, last week, I think. And Ivory Coast president re-elected with 94% of votes. That's on page 5. But the Ivory Coast still in quite a sticky situation. You know, this third term already has problems, and now the other candidates are saying they are not accepting the results and a whole lot. And it just makes me very uneasy because this is a country very close to us, sharing a border with us, in fact. And if anything spills over there, it gets right back in here. Let's pray for the best for the Ivory Coast.
Yeah, that's what we do, see? But when we see it coming, we don't stop it. And then it comes.
Well, in this instance, though, what really can you do to stop it? Our president is the chairperson of ECOWAS, but when trouble is brewing, and of course he is good friends with Alassane Ouattara, but what really can you do? Our regional and sub-regional groupings, they don't have the military wherewithal, they don't have the financial, backing. What really can they do but jaw? Usually that's my problem, though, because they don't jaw enough, and then when there's chaos, an outbreak, then they want to go jaw. But apart from that, they are pretty handicapped.
You have a point, though. Well, let's do the Republic Press. I'm just going to run through some of the stories. There's this one about Martin Amidu reviving the Airbus scandal. And that's when he says, yeah, I know who government official one is. Okay, but there's this one. Tazan calls for Oforiatta's head, but minister insists he did no wrong. Details on page 3. It says former chief executive officer of Ghana's Water River Authority, Charles Rekobrobe, has called for the removal of the finance minister, Ken Oforiatta, from office. According to him, the finance minister did not act appropriately in the controversial Japa Royal agreements, and that has accounted for the ongoing confusion. He argued that the whole deal was fraudulent and called on the government to halt the deal, restart it after the 2020 elections. There's more to that in the paper today. And then the Electoral Commission, we shared this with you yesterday, saying that they will use manual system for transmission of results. All right.
Okay. Let's proceed with the Daily Statesman. Rashid oils Bono NPP campaign with 30 motorbikes and more. And then Ghana becoming West Africa's food basket. Then this one, Mahama in tears as SP uncovers him as GO1 in Airbus bribery scandal. Let's do some sports on the back page of the Statesman, the Daily Statesman. It says Jamie Vardy, Leicester City's Jamie Vardy produces another masterclass. But can Leicester fight for the title? You know, a few years ago, they produced that masterstroke to actually win it. But since that time, they've been in the top flight, but not necessarily getting to the point of winning. There's also this one, Lawrence Okoli to face Christoph Glovacki in first world title shot. Now, the British cruiserweight is actually going to make a bid for a first world title against Christoph Glovacki on the undercard of the Anthony Joshua Kubrat Pulev fight on the 12th of December. Looks like a lot of, obviously, when you look at the name, you can tell this is someone from our end who is either naturalized or spent a lot of time in Britain. So,
what's his name again?
Okoli. That is Lawrence Okoli.
Okay.
You know, Anthony Joshua himself is. You know, he has Nigerian roots and all of that. So
that
my point
sounds a bit Nigerian, doesn't it?
That's the whole point I'm making. And sometimes you have like the likes of this athlete, Geza. I think it's Geza. He was a triple jumper.
Okay.
He naturalized for the Netherlands at a point in time. And I felt sad back then because he cited that he got injured and all of that. Ghana left him to his own devices. And interestingly, this was someone winning medals for us. Africa, on the global scene.
That's a very familiar story.
And we left him. And he moved over to the Netherlands, which had been taking care of him while he was, performing for us.
Let's do the new publisher. Perhaps the last newspaper for me. WAEC runs away from 2020 WASI and then withdraw a Japa deal, sack Oforiatta Mahama to Akufo-Addo. Amidu has shocked me. Mahama denies government official one tag. So the main front page headlines there in the new publisher newspaper. Do you have one more paper to do?
One more to do, and the full name, Ignatius Geza. That's
okay. All right, yes.
The Ghanaian publisher is my final one. EC accuses NDC of peddling falsehood. Did you note how they wrapped up their statements, though? I think they say something about let peace reign. Did you see the end of the Electoral Commission in that statement, the rebuttal as far as the NDC is concerned.
Let peace reign.
I found that interesting. And so they are saying the NDC is peddling falsehood. Then other stories in the publisher. Did you know, though, I have no idea, but this one says, pregnant Adwa Safo storms Dome Kwabenya and Abokobi market. But what does her pregnancy have to do with this story?
Thank you. I was just going to say.
What is important about mentioning that she's heavy with child? She is a member of parliament. She's contesting.
No, it's not even
What's
that.
the problem?
It's not even that she's a woman. She could get pregnant. Do you understand? Yeah, that's what we do.
Sometimes I think these subtle things, they are lost on us, but they are very... why the need to...
We're used to it. It's like, yeah, I'm telling y'all she's pregnant, so what?
I mean, if it were a man, would you say a man with his chest out? It's nothing. It makes no...
The pregnant woman's husband, who is candidate for so-and-so constituency, we should begin to do that.
That would be interesting, though.
I just wanted back to the Ghanaian Times newspaper on page 3. They talk about the remains of the 4 murdered, and this is the trial that's ongoing, the Takrady girls. The remains tendered in evidence. So, and this is all 4 girls kidnapped in 2018 in Takrady in the Western region. The remains yesterday tendered, of course, in evidence at the 2nd D High Court. The remains contained in 4 coffins were accompanied by police pathologist, Dr. Superintendent Osei Owuswe-Fiye, amidst heavy security escort. The remains were retrieved from a septic tank. Okay, so it gives us the background, which I guess we're all familiar with. I think there's one of the parents, one of the families who's heavily disputing that what they brought was truly the remains of the girls. But they also wanted an opportunity to also view, which was not allowed. There's this other update as well, still related to the court. Daniel Esiedu, also known as Sexy Don Don, the man accused of killing the former Member of Parliament for Abuakwa North, JB Danko Edu, is facing fresh charges of possession of mobile phone and sharp object. This is aside the conspiracy to commit crime and murder charges leveled against him by the state. There's more to that. And then there's this very, very sad incident of bees killing 2 girls and 3 others in critical condition. Yeah, when I first saw it, I'm just going to collect firewood. Yeah. You know, and this happened. So,
I was actually following a story the other day. It's from pretty way back, and it was talking about how some people were going to fetch water, you know, in a river body, and the person got snatched, the child actually got snatched by a crocodile.
Oh.
Yeah. Oh. Not necessarily in Ghana, but, you know, in the African context, how people are... water that even animals would... Human beings, a lot of scum and all of that, human beings drinking, and when the child went, you know, the crocodile just got it. But let me just do these stories from the Finder newspaper. Let's adhere to prescribed COVID-19 protocols to prevent new infections. That's on page 4 of the Finder newspaper. And it says, Mrs. Akosua Fremose Opare, the Chief of Staff, has appealed to Ghanaians to adhere to prescribed health protocols to prevent new infections of the coronavirus disease. She emphasized that though the nation had achieved successes in containing the viral disease, COVID-19 was not yet over, and everybody ought to protect one another by especially wearing nose masks in public. So you know what time it is. Let's do our utmost when it comes to observing the protocols. If you stopped washing your hands properly, sanitizing, donning your mask, don't forget, if you become a victim, and you know something about the virus that even after it's left you, it can leave you with so many things.
Oh, yes.
Your organs, it can do so many things with your organ that can lead to other diseases in the future. So you might want to watch out.
Having been pronounced impotent.
Wow.
After, yes, at least 2.
Only
and this is Ghana. This is Ghana, this is not outside.
Remnants in their sperm and all of that, but this one is new to me.
Yes. I was reliably informed.
Okay, so men, and even more urgent need to stay away from that. But my final story, ex-NDC constituency organizer hails the MPP. I found this so interesting because it says, so the immediate past NDC organizer for Bodi constituency in the Western North region, Shadrach Opoku, has said that after just a few weeks of defecting to the NPP, he has realized a big difference between the NPP and his former party, the NDC, after a few weeks.
Okay, so is this the same man who joined the First Lady's campaign team?
I am not
Maybe
sure,
not?
but
okay,
I know
there's another one that, okay. All right, let's spend the rest of our time giving you updates on the US elections. You can go to myjoyline.com for more news though. So let's just do the US elections, and I'm reading from the BBC. Results suggest a tight race in key battlegrounds. We're talking Pennsylvania, Michigan, Iowa, Wisconsin. Trump is so far projected to hold 21 states, including Texas, and must win Florida, having outperformed pollsters' predictions. So that's also one of the things coming up. Just like 4 years ago, it looks like he's doing way better than they had predicted that he would do.
Right.
But Joe Biden could snatch Arizona. I think we've also talked about that, and we've said that.
So there's Arizona, there's Nevada,
for him.
Both of them looking that way. They are pale blue now, per the CNN, what the CNN is delivering. They are pale blue, which means that they could actually swing in favor of Democratic candidate Joe Biden. Interestingly, Colorado has also been won by Biden, making a very interesting picture. Some, though, were expected. You know, Washington, New York, and all of that, Vancouver expected, but with some of the wins coming through, could be tricky for Trump.
Yeah, for Trump, for Biden too. I don't know,
well,
but listen,
he has everything to lose.
Mr. Biden spoke. Mr. Biden spoke and said that the election is not over until every ballot is counted, and insists we are on track to win.
Right.
Trump has also put out a statement that he's going to be speaking, but he's already sent a number of the messages already. He says they're trying to steal the elections, but he's not going to allow that, obviously. You see some of the messages, some of the things that he's been tweeting about were big up, but they're trying to steal the election. We will never let them do it. Votes cannot be cast after the polls are closed.
What substantiates this, though? I mean, Trump puts a lot of... maybe interesting as well that Twitter hasn't flagged this, but maybe it doesn't breach their protocols. But all of this, I mean, pretty.
Oh, it's been flagged according to a director.
It has actually been flagged because I would have been surprised. It has actually been flagged. So it makes for pretty interesting
absolutely.
analysis.
I was listening to one of his legal team members who said that in some of the places, their agents were not allowed in to monitor the process. So there are issues with possible fraud, and they're going to be disputing some of the results in some of the areas where they strongly believe that their supporters were not allowed in to monitor the process. So some of the things associated with our own elections that we know also linked to this one. It's actually very close, they say, and most of what they've counted is from the votes on election day.
Right.
But not the early votes. So there's still a long way to go, and it's too early to call.
But even from the early votes, the pattern was that there were a lot more Democrats voting ahead of time because Trump supporters, especially as he had spoken about mail vote and all of that, and they're staying away, a lot of them did not vote at that point in time, at least per some of the statistics that have been revealed, which would then mean that should also favor a certain Joe Biden. But we'll get into the details because it makes for very interesting reading. But finally, Trump, it's been a while since we had a president not doing 2 terms, if you've actually followed. It would be interesting that he becomes the first in quite a long time to have done 1 term if he loses. And Joe Biden himself, later, there's a lot I have to share on Joe Biden.
Sleepy Joe, huh? Yeah, so we wait to see, but we'll be filling you in the course of our programming today. We'll talk about the Jaffa deal, the other angle of it in terms of the work. What did Parliament do really? Because what they didn't do is what they're there to do. So how did they get it wrong is our big question this morning, after which we'll spend time and talk about the US elections. I'm sure by that time would have gotten a lot more results. And who knows if it will be a slow blue wave or a slow red wave. So with that, we've got sports coming up right after this.
Well, still on the Ghana Premier League, this time we move to Inter Allies, where their head coach, Henrik Lem, believes that his side would be ready for that tasty fixture on match day 1 against Dreams FC. Muftar Nabila once again has the following report.
The form of teams were at a crescendo before COVID-19 forced the suspension and subsequent cancellation of footballing activities in the country. Following the lifting of suspension on contact sport, Ghana Premier League clubs resumed training sessions ahead of the commencement of a new footballing season scheduled to start on the weekend of November 13. Head coach of Inter Allies, Henrik Lem, has been speaking about the challenges the players have encountered and how soon they will be ready before the first match of the season.
For me personally, it meant that I had to leave Ghana right when we were playing very well, and so I was sad that I had to leave. For the players, you know, they haven't been practicing and playing for, I think it's around 7 months. So of course they missed the contact with the ball, the technique, the first touch, and they are not in such a good shape. So we have a short period to make them ready for the first game. It's a very short start, and this team, we lost 7 players. They sold especially to Europe. So of course it will take us time to build a new team, but I'm sure we will handle it.
Inter Allies will be missing the services of Victorian Adebayo and Samuel Arma, 2 players who scored 18 goals in 14 matches before the suspension of footballing activities. Lem admits the duo will be missed.
Of course we'll miss them. First of all, as persons, they're very nice persons, but of course 2 as good players who make so many goals, you know, it's not easy to find new players in such a short time. But I'm sure we're working on it every practice to make more goals, but it will probably take a while before we'll be there again. I think they're in okay shape after such a short practice period, but they still have a lot of you know, technical things and a lot of tactical things we have to do better. So we played our first practice match this Saturday, and I know it's first match in 7 months, but still I was not satisfied how we played, especially the first half hour. So we still have a lot of things to work on.
Allies will open their new footballing campaign against Dreams FC at the Theatre of Dreams.
Let's do some hockey now, where despite the Ghana national hockey team failing to qualify for the 2020 Tokyo Olympic Games, they still have hope of winning some gold medals when the African Games comes your way in Ghana in 2023. We do have more for you in the following report by my colleague Elon Benaya.
Ghana's male and female hockey teams failed to qualify for the 2021 Tokyo Olympics after finishing 3rd and 2nd respectively at the African qualifiers last year August in South Africa. After the disappointment of not making it to next year's Olympic Games, the head of communication for the Ghana Hockey Federation, Reverend Lomomenu, says the federation is planning to build new pitches and other facilities to sharpen the talent and skills of players.
It was meant to set up for everything, but more especially for the youth, because we need to build our capacity as a country. Our national teams haven't been faring too well, even though we were once African champions, and then we also placed in 2nd or 3rd in the World Series. South Africa and Egypt, they have overtaken us, both boys, girls, men and women. So this was to unearth talents across the country and then to sharpen our skills.
He also added that the federation is targeting gold for Ghana in the 2023 African Hockey Games.
Well, we have to collect all the gold medals. No joke. Okay. Because if we have 3 new pitches, okay, and we have our coaches well trained, and we are having competitions. You know, competitions are very, very important. I mean, for example, just 5 years ago, we revived the senior high school national hockey competition, and the progress has been amazing. We find students or schools who are playing, I mean, when we started 5 years ago, their level wasn't that good. But last year when we had the last one, I mean, amazing. And if we continue like that, I mean, the interest is going to definitely develop. A lot more young ones who are more talented would want to play hockey. And I believe that once we have opportunities like All Africa Games, World Games for them to travel and so on and so forth, they would be aspiring, to play and play well.
The Ghana hockey team is said to be back in action in February.
Well, that's the note on which we will be ending the sports here. My name is Oriku Wampofo, and do have a fantastic day. The AM show continues right after this.
Cannot remedy the defects of the transaction in any way possible. That is why we question the transaction. In any case, what is government desperately looking for $500 million for? What do they want the money for? What is the national need? What is the emergency for which we must borrow? From a transaction that we end without borrowing, gold contribute 4% to our national revenue. Government without Ajapa earns $130 million annually from gold revenue, and just 10 of the mineral mining companies make significant contribution to our total revenue. Parliament cannot remedy the defects so identified by the special prosecutor. How is Parliament going to cure nepotism and cronyism? How is Parliament going to cure that you appointed a chief executive without due process? How is Parliament going to cure that you pass a resolution on a non-existing law? You don't build a house on nothing. It was built on nothing. So how is Parliament going to cure that a motion is moved and the motion is amended at the very time it was to be adopted, to make room to wait for a president to assent to a bill so passed by Parliament? We feel strongly vindicated. The truth must always stand with the political minority at all times. And Ghanaians will now understand why momentarily I lost my cool and temperament for an important national matter of this character and nature. You find a Minister of State trivialize it with Papano at that time, not concerned about the weight and magnitude of this particular transaction.
I don't know the content of the bag that is coming to us. If we assess it and we believe that we can work on it, we will apply ourselves to it. But already we have a tall order of business for us to process and indeed transact. If adding to it, we believe that it's possible, so be it. If it's not possible, we'll have to tarry a while. But I don't know what it entails. So I cannot make any definitive pronouncement on that.
Some say this shows Parliament didn't do a good job with the earlier document.
How does it show?
Approved.
How does it show? What's conclusive about it? Do they know better than we do know? Thing is, you can't just conjecture from the top of your head.
Your position is that.
Can I finish? I mean, sometimes these things are very preposterous. Somebody sits somewhere as making a definitive pronouncement. You ask him, have you seen it? He hasn't seen it. There was a sense in critique when we say we haven't seen it. Even me, I can tell you that I haven't seen the referral and the content. So how does somebody sitting somewhere who hasn't seen it, condemn Parliament for lack of diligence?
So you heard the majority leader of Parliament there on this conversation in terms of the deal going back to Parliament. But even before it goes back to Parliament, it was in Parliament before. How did they miss all that the special prosecutor pointed out? That's, the concentration here. And my guest in studio is the Member of Parliament for Tamale Central, Mr. Inusaf Hussaini. He also sits on a committee that also monitored the process at the finance committee level. So this is very important. We will also be joined via phone by Dr. Rashid Dramaan, Executive Director of the Institute of the African Center for Parliamentary Affairs. He will join us via phone for a perspective on this as well. Good morning to you.
Good morning, and how are you?
Very well, thank you.
Yep.
And I know that the minority did boycott the process at some points, but beyond that, help us appreciate how Parliament couldn't figure out what the special prosecutor did.
Well, thank you so very much. Let's backtrack. So, on the Ajapa deal and all the documents that came to Parliament on the transactions, came to Parliament on the 13th day of August 2020 with the executive approval from the President. And it was referred to the Finance Committee by the Speaker of Parliament. The Speaker of Parliament then directed that the Constitutional, Legal and Parliamentary Affairs Committee could be part of the committee to consider the documents that were submitted to us by the Minister of Finance. So the minority elected Dr. Dominic Ayini, myself, Bernard Ahefo, and others to join the Finance Committee and the minority side of the Finance Committee to sit in to review the documents that were submitted to the House. Now, at the meeting, one matter was very clear, I mean, and I say without any fear of contradiction that the matters contained in Martin Amidou's report were matters that had agitated the minds of the minority when we were before the Committee on Finance, considering the documents that came before Parliament. Now, the first most important matter, I mean, and it's a constitutional matter. The Constitution has an enacting formula for laws, and it's captured in Article 106 of the Constitution. Bills laid in Parliament, considered by Parliament, and passed by Parliament must be assented to by the President before they become law. And so until such a bill passed by Parliament is assented to by the President, you cannot have a law on which to stand to take decisions. And so the Minerals Income and Investment Fund Act, which was passed earlier on in the year, was brought back to Parliament by the Finance Minister even before the documents evidencing the transaction were laid. Now, in that bill, the law had established a special purpose vehicle, SPV, as an instrument of the fund for the purposes of engaging outsiders, investors, in the mineral royalties and income investment fund, in the fund. Now, the vehicle, that is the SPV as the instrument, was totally owned by the fund. Now, the Minister for Finance introduced an amendment to Parliament to make the SPV operationally independent of the fund, meaning the SPV was going to be a legal entity with a life of its own. Now, we had misgivings because we thought that the fund as a fund to engage with outsiders could be difficult, and so that was why we needed an SPV. Now, the whole new amendment was taking the discussions beyond the SPV being an instrument of the fund. But we were convinced that the good governance and other dictates of the international finance market, of which the Minerals Income and Investment Fund intended to list Ghana's royalties, needed an SPV which was not subject to the control of government. So we passed the amendment. But the amendment at the time that the documents were submitted to Parliament evidencing the transaction, the Ajapa deal, had not been assented to by the President. So there was no law on which to take a decision. Because
I have a lot of follow-up questions to ask you.
Yes.
Because even though you boycotted the process at some point, you didn't make a strong case, as we've seen, and it wasn't so clear your disagreements. But let me just bring in Dr. Rashid Dramaan, Executive Director, African Center for Parliamentary Affairs. A very good morning to you, sir. Thank you for your time, if you can hear me.
Yes, I can hear you.
Is this how our parliament is supposed to be operating? This is a very important deal if you look at some of the basic things that the special prosecutor pointed to, considering this deal went to parliament. Shouldn't our parliament have pointed out these things? There was, and according to the special prosecutor, I'm quoting, reasonable suspicion of bid rigging, corruption and conflict of interest in the selection process of investors. And this is the mandate agreements. And also pointing to the fact that it makes it an international business agreement, which had to go under Article 1815. My point is, all these things are passed by Parliament. All the other things should have been pointed to when the deal went to Parliament. Why didn't we see our parliamentarians doing an effective job with the agreement that they had worked on?
Yeah, well, Mama V, yes, this is not how our parliament should operate, or this is not how any parliament at all should operate. Regrettably, I think we operate in a system where most of the time, at the end of the day, it comes down to the numbers. When the Right Honourable Speaker says all those in favour, then we see issues, coming down to political division, regrettably. And this has been the trend over the years. I've heard my brother, the Honourable Indusa, making the case. But, some might say that maybe in the past when his own party was in government, we've seen instances where maybe the minority at the time would vehemently disagree on a certain number of issues, but the majority would have its way. So I'm just making this point to say that, as a country, we have to remember, and our leaders have to always remember, that at the end of the day, whatever decisions that they make should be decisions that are in the interest of the people that they represent. Otherwise, we get to embarrassing situations like this. And then when something like this happens, it's not only an indictment on the majority alone, because we say Parliament has disagreement. So for me, that is the sad aspect. That on some very important national issues, I think our parliamentarians and our leaders must agree that here we have to put partisan interests aside and let's work for the nation. Let's work for the people that we represented, the people that sent us to Parliament.
So, Dr. Dramaan, the people are thinking, how many of these deals have gone through? How many of these deals have they passed without properly scrutinizing it? Should we have special prosecutor or any an institution like that going back to all the agreements that Parliament should have scrutinized? I am worried, and there are people who are worried as well. If this is how they do their work, then why are they there?
Well, I think in the case of this particular deal, I remember on your network as well as on many other networks, there were very strong voices, particularly from civil society organizations that work in this particular field. And at the time, I was saying that all these civil society organizations couldn't be wrong. And if we said maybe, as the argument was at the time, that the minority was raising some of the issues that they raised for political gain, you couldn't have about 25 civil society organizations, no matter how someone would tag some of them. You couldn't have all of them coming together to raise issues that were similar to those of the minority. But having said that, Mama V, you raise a very important point about how many of these things have passed through our parliament without needed scrutiny. As a human institution, and the Honorable is there in the studio to tell you, I think that's why we have what we call post-legislative scrutiny. It's not very, very common in our country, but in most countries, after every 3 years of implementing a particular law, Parliament goes back, say, let's take this law, let's look at, what the law was intended for in the first place, and after maybe a number of years, let's see whether, looking back, whether parliamentarians made the right decision and whether the law or whatever you have has addressed the gaps and the issues that it was intended to address in the first place. So, this is the reason why we have something like this. So, it is possible that sometimes Parliament can get things wrong, and that is why there is space in post-legislative scrutiny for some of these reviews to be done. But I think in instances where there are very strong voices, not only from the minority, but also from civil society organizations, from people with expertise in a particular field, I think our members of Parliament, both sides, must listen. And we always also say that minorities change. I'm sure that if we flip the coin today, we'll hear the same kind of voices from the group that is majority today, and then we hear maybe a very strong support of government from the group that is minority today. And I think we have to get to a point, in our history, in our democracy, where these things must change. It's a political house. We understand. When these debates happen, they couldn't be devoid of politics. But I think, yes.
Now, I was just going to say, I know that you have to leave us, but I want to ask, in a situation where national interest has been compromised by Parliament, how do we punish Parliament?
Well, we punish Parliament by, unfortunately, we don't have the power to do it frequently, but we have the power to do it every 4 years. And I think in the next few weeks, we have an opportunity to look at the work that our government has done, as well as the work that all our 275 members of Parliament have done.
Are you saying, Dr. Dramaan, that when they've allowed a deal like this to go through without properly scrutinize it with all the implications, the only thing we can do is to vote our individual MPs out of office after 4 years?
Well, Mamavi, the other options that we have are perhaps maybe options that I would not call democratic. That would be maybe taking some extreme measures. But citizens can, as we have seen in many countries, citizens can come out and demand change in a way that sometimes maybe could result in processes that are not democratic, or and those kind of processes could also lead to what we have seen in some countries that we don't want to see. I don't want to mention certain words on your platform, but what I am saying is that if we are unhappy with a government or a group that leads us, one of the surest ways that we have to bring about change is to use the power of the vote that we have. There are other options, but I think that is up to citizens to. We can recall our MPs, but in this case, we are talking about the whole Parliament. We cannot recall the 275 members of Parliament.
Well, Dr. Dramaan, I thank you very much for your time and your perspective to this. Dr. Rashid Dramaan is Executive Director, African Center for Parliamentary Affairs, a man who is familiar with how parliaments, particularly in this region elsewhere, operate. Mr. Yunusa Hussaini, we should be ashamed of the work that you have done, irrespective of the fact that you're part of the minority that dissented at some point in this process, shouldn't we?
Well, I understand the sentiments expressed by Dr. Dramaan. I also understand it and appreciate your views. But to be fair to Parliament, and particularly the minority, these matters were raised by the minority before the Committee of Finance considering the Ajapa deal. Now, and also, let's get it clear. It is the minority who raised strong objection to the Ajapa deal that caught the attention and scrutiny of civil society organizations. It is not civil society organizations who on their own started the scrutiny. It was because of the vehement opposition by the minority expressed on the floor of the House that got people thinking and looking into the deal. Now, I understand clearly that the ratification of the agreements was done by Parliament. But Parliament is duly constituted by the Speaker, the majority members of Parliament, the clerk, and the minority members of Parliament. So Parliament sitting is duly constituted when you have all these segments in place. The minority will have a position, but that position need not be the position of government. That position is decided on votes. And when that vote is taken, the decision becomes a decision of Parliament. So that marks whatever, because of the democratic system that we're practicing, the vociferous objection of a minority in Parliament can get drowned by the outcome of a vote. And this is what happened in the Ajapa deal. First of all, let me tell you without any fear of contradiction that the minority raised the issue of procurement of the services of Imara Corporate Finance Services, PTY of South Africa. They demanded to see the letter from the PPA approving of such engagement. The minority wanted the finance minister to give the minority or the Committee on Finance an aggregation of the royalties that were to be lodged with the SPV. The minority stated that clearly on the floor of the House. The minority wanted to know the basis upon which we were running into this transaction in view of the fact that gold royalties are expected royalties that come to the country every year. And if you do the calculation, whatever amount of money the government was going to secure by securitizing our gold royalties could be obtained within 2, 3, or 4 years. Why would government pledge or securitize our royalties for a period of no less than 15 years?
The issue with the Amara agreement, you raised that at the committee level. You said that you wanted to see the document.
Yes.
Was it given?
No. No, I mean, and you can appreciate that from the report of the special prosecutor.
But even if you had been given, because from the special prosecutor's revelation, you would not have known that Data Bank was partnering with Imara.
We would not have known. So that is the value that has been added to the issues raised by the minority by the special prosecutor. Because the special prosecutor was not doing an investigative report into analysis of corruption, risk of corruption, and anti-corruption, what we call assessment.
I've got a question though. So when you asked for these documents at the committee level and you were not given, what were your options then? After what kind of option do you have?
So we had no options than to debate the impunity on the floor of the House.
Did you also spot the fact that this was an international agreement, and so he needed the engagement of Imara.
First
and
of
so
all,
he needed to be brought to the
First
house.
of all, you can't build something on nothing. If Imara was not properly retained, then you don't even need an international agreement. It can't qualify as an international agreement. Prima facie, before an agreement can become an international agreement, the retention of that party must be in accordance with the laws of the country. And so, if PPA, a Public Procurement Authority, did not give permission or approval for the retention of Imara, then the retention of Imara itself was unlawful, violated the laws of the country. How can a legal agreement or an agreement that is unlawful be an international agreement? That was why you needed to satisfy yourself that they had gotten approval before you even come to the next step of laying the agreement in Parliament. But we didn't get the approval.
So my question is, why didn't we see, we know, yes, you disagreed, you said, and to be fair, there are things that when the minority says, it is politicized, so people say, oh, there they go again. But my point is, I'm not sure you made it so clear the things that you disagreed on so that the people of Ghana could follow your arguments.
I'm just inviting you to go to Parliament, pick the Hansard of 14th of August 2014 and read the comments of the minority. It was when they moved the motion, was so overtaken with emotion that I got up and caught the eye of the speaker. And I invited the speaker to consider seriously what we're doing in that house on that day. Because I was left in no doubt that what we're doing was unconstitutional. I read the provision of the Constitution to the speaker and interpreted the Constitution, the provision to the speaker, because we had amended the law. So we could not say that we didn't know that the law was amended. But most importantly, the report of the committee made reference to the law that had been amended. That law, that amended bill, had not been assented to. So you could not be taking a decision on it. So that is why when we walked out, we said all these things on the floor of the House and walked out, note the resolution that was passed. The resolution was passed creating what we call in law speculative jurisdiction in Parliament. And Parliament has no speculative jurisdiction. The resolution says that the Ajapa deal will come into force when the amended provisions are assented to by the President. Parliament doesn't have speculative jurisdiction. Because you can't assume that the President will assent to the bill. And so you can see even from the resolution that after we left, the majority thought that something was fundamentally wrong. And they thought the way to address that thing or to resolve what was wrong was to pass a speculative resolution.
Here's my worry though. This is a very important deal.
Yes.
Something that commits the states.
Yes.
And is long term.
Yes.
You pointed to some disturbing facts in the agreement.
Yeah.
Was your only resolution a walkout because the majority would not listen? Because, the people put you there to do a piece of work. And even though you share your views when you disagree, I think I have an issue of, is your only option walking out and saying they won't listen to us, so we don't want to be a part of it?
Marvin, I tell you here on set, I was the first person to walk out. When I made the submissions on the unconstitutional acts that we're engaging in, and Speaker overruled me, I said I will not be a party to this unconstitutionality, and I walked out.
But obviously that's not the solution.
Well, what
because
do you do?
the special prosecutor had not gone into this with his corruption risk assessments.
I can tell you as a fact that if special prosecutor had not gone into this and there was a change or there is a change of government, that agreement would have been subject matter of investigation. And any investor investing in the Ajapa royalties based on the resolution that was passed in Parliament, would have been doing so at his own risk. Because there was simply, you think the investors are fools? There was simply no basis for the Ajapa deal ratification in Parliament.
So we wait for a deal to go through and pray and hope that there will be a change in government so we can reverse it.
But what do you do when government is bent on perpetuating an impunity? What do? You start with cordials. You turn the Parliament into a brawl. What do? You walk out and refuse to be part of the process. That's what you do. And walk out is a legitimate expression of dissent in Parliament. It's a tool available to members of Parliament.
My worry is when you walk out, deal is still passed.
Yeah, it will be passed. It will pass. In fact, that even aggravates the level of impunity. It only shows that with the Parliament presently constituted by 169 members of Parliament from the majority and 106 members from the minority, they do not need the minority to pass resolutions.
Is Parliament reflecting on the poor job done and regretting? Or you're simply looking forward to, because the new debate now is it should come back to Parliament?
Well, you can't remedy an irretrievably bad deal. It's a rotten deal. If something is rotten, you throw it away. And if you want that system, you start afresh. This deal is irretrievably bad. The mandate form, according to the special prosecutor, was signed by the Deputy Minister for Finance when he had no power.
But you didn't spot it.
We didn't spot it because they didn't bring the mandate. We didn't spot it. How can you spot something which was not presented to you?
Was it even fair that you had 24 hours to look at this all-important deal?
Well, that is how government chose to act that day. That was the day we were rising. We were rising the day, the next day, they brought it the day before the rising, and that was how government chose to conduct its business.
You know, we're using this one agreement, but this has happened many times, hasn't it?
This happened many times, and that's why I am terribly disappointed in Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. So many years ago, this country came to the conclusion that the political constitution that we're running could not secure us the necessary development. That it was important to move the political constitution to a development constitution. That Parliament was weak, largely because majority of ministers were dropped from Parliament. The Constitutional Amendment Review Commission made recommendations to free Parliament from the bondage of the executive. The president came into office, met the recommendations of the Constitutional Review Committee, decided to ignore it with impunity. That's why we are where we are. So you will find the majority members of Parliament, and particularly your colleague, who is Information Minister, who is a member of Parliament, who under normal circumstances will scrutinize a government deal. He trivialized the debate and introduced words which were unparliamentary in Parliament. That is the conflicted situation in which the provision that allows the president, the executive, to appoint majority of his ministers from Parliament. That's what happens. Because you wouldn't expect a minister of state who is part of the executive to argue with dispassionate emotion on a matter and put national interest at the forefront in his debate. Because on one leg, he is standing with the executive. On the other leg, he's standing with Parliament. So when said people move Parliament into passing a resolution to favor the executive, you obviously blame Parliament. But you don't see the conflict. And that is what happened.
Now, as you've been in Parliament, and what has been the conversation, amongst parliamentarians? Are you regretting what you have done? Are you ashamed?
I am ashamed. I, as a person, am ashamed. Because I have always, the conversations, I can tell you, the conversations, private conversations that we have with each other, clearly point to the fact that certain activities, I think that they ought not to pass through Parliament. I mean, we had a Parliamentary Training Institute organize a seminar for members of Parliament, leadership of Parliament. In that meeting, Kojom Pianin came to address us. made some revelations about matters that we had passed. In that meeting, all the people there resolved that things were not good the way they were going. But we came back and we saw the same things. Because even if a person is not, if a member of parliament is not a minister, he's working to catch the eye of the president. So he will not stand in his way when he wants things done in parliament.
Then that can never be resolved. Even if we amend our laws, that can never be resolved.
That will be resolved.
How can that be resolved?
That will be resolved if you don't have majority of ministers from parliament. That will be resolved even if you have a president who is prepared to say, look, people get elected into parliament because they want to be legislators. If you want to be a minister, don't seek appointment to parliament. This aberration that we have was because of an experience we had in the Third Republic. That President Liman's budget could not be passed. And so when we had opportunity to write a new budget, we thought that if a majority of ministers were members of parliament, then you already had majority of your ministers supporting the budget or a government policy. And so that is an aberration. And that is what is now militating against our development.
So
I'll give you another example. PC04, you remember him? Mm-hmm. In the history of parliament, he is the only member of parliament who stood up against government policy when government was privatizing Vodafone. You know the consequences of that? He was removed on all boards. All boards. He never got an appointment. And even still suffering the consequences of that action under this government.
What's the usefulness of parliament right now?
There cannot be a democracy without parliament unless you don't understand what democracy means.
So
there cannot be a democracy without parliament. There can be a government without parliament. That government can never be called a democracy.
So is it just for in terms of function, in the name and the distribution? There's an executive, there's a judiciary, and there's the legislature. Is it only existing in its name like that?
No. People must have the power, authority, and right to determine who leads them. And to do that, they must have the right to speak on matters that touch and concern their lives. So they elect their representatives to scrutinize government policy and make available to government resources.
But you have failed on that aspect.
We have failed because of the institutional mechanisms that we have, the government architecture that we have put in place. I always say as a student of politics that the experience in the Third Republic ought to have guided us in a way that would not make us loosen or weaken parliament in its bid to hold the executive accountable. And listen to me, parliament holding the executive accountable. That is a trite understanding of what legislatures all around the world do. But what do we see in Ghana? When we say holding executive accountable, more often than not, it is the minority that holds the executive accountable.
Even that, when issues come and it has to do with you, we're talking about money and salaries, you are usually with them.
Nowhere on earth is government run by conflict. Government everywhere is run by consensus and negotiation. It is only when you fail to agree or reach a consensus on a matter of national importance that the conflict explodes.
I've got a last angle to this, and this is the final one. Has Parliament learned any lessons from this deal?
I hope so.
Is it obvious in Parliament?
Well, it's not yet obvious in Parliament, but I hope the Parliament has learned useful lessons. It pains. It pains. This is why members of Parliament sometimes are looked on as people who are, with the greatest of respect to members of Parliament, comical. Because people know, all of us know individually, members of Parliament as individually constituted have some level of understanding of what they think is best for this country. But acting collectively, we tend to subordinate our acknowledgement of the fact of things that ought to secure the well-being of the people of this country to the political party or partisan considerations. And that is why on a daily basis or on activity basis, we always lose respect. I mean, you will not say that in this parliament, members of parliament do not have the skill, understanding, analytical intellect to consider and dispassionately review government policy. You will not say that. But how come that when government policy is introduced into the House, we take partisan positions? How?
Just a curious case, the Minerals Income Investment Fund. Was this something that was brought to the attention of Parliament? Was this something that you also looked into?
Yes, we worked on it and passed the law.
The fact that persons heading the fund, was it something that came up, as the special prosecutor has pointed to?
By Article 195 of the Constitution, if you are establishing a statutory body, it must have a governing board. So we provided for a governing board.
Okay. But in terms of its constitution?
In terms of those who will constitute the governing board, Parliament does not decide that or determine that. It is the prerogative of the President.
Okay, because I asked that because of what the special prosecutor,
yes, because
his conclusion in terms of where they are, the fact that they aligned with the MPP, so their decisions will be
clouded, and that lowered the risk of corruption and also the anti-corruption.
But clearly,
assessment.
That was not something that Parliament was concerned with.
Parliament established a governing board and provided for qualification and criteria for selection of people onto the governing board. The President decided to exercise his executive authority under Article 58 and 195 to select persons onto the governing board. And in selecting persons, the President his choice was skewed towards people who shared in his political beliefs.
Oh, Mr. Yusuf Hussaini, I want to say thank you, but I'm not sure I'm so hopeful in terms of the work of Parliament as Parliament is constituted, now, as in the structure that we have going forward. I have a feeling that we will see this happen again and again, and we will continue to have this conversation.
I understand and appreciate your despondency, your worry and concern. I totally understand. Understand because of the present situation in which we find ourselves. I just hope that we will learn useful lessons from what has happened and take remedial and corrective steps to ensure that it never happens. That's a hope, but it's a very, very faint hope, because the governance architecture clearly conduces to such arrangements.
One of the men that we'll miss in Parliament is you, Mr. Yusuf Hussaini, because
yes,
apart from this conversation, you've been very objective on other matters as well. And it's sad that such good men we're losing in Parliament, but we wish you well. We've already had our exit interview, so.
Well, that's okay. That's okay. But we are always available. I mean, you see, we must learn as a people to put the country first in terms of matters that affect us. Sometimes I lie down and I say that, look, Nana Addo Dankwa has not helped us. Because as a lawyer...
Did John Dramaan help us?
No, why? Because Nana Akufo-Addo had opportunity to review what John Dramani Mahama was doing. And in his revision of what John Dramani Mahama was doing, he came up with things that he thought he could do differently. It caught the imagination of the people of this country. And unfortunately, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo has reversed on all that he said he would do.
I'm sure if I spoke to the other side, they would disagree with you. But thank you so much for your time.
We said we won't do family and friends government. It was one of the key things. We said we won't appoint...
You said before, you're saying now?
No, they said they wouldn't do. He said he wouldn't do family and friends. He said it.
Did you?
And everybody thought that family and friends in government is a sure recipe for disaster. Because you are not...
Did you do family Family and
That's what he said. Because there was one family member.
I'm talking about you.
No, there was one family member of John Dramaan Mahama in his government. That was enough to qualify his government as a family and friends. There was only one family member.
We'll leave it here. Thank you so much. We will talk about the U.S. elections before show business. Stay with us.
I wish Biden well.
Really?
Yes.
Hello, good morning and welcome to Showbiz here on the AM show with me, Mapita CBD. Now, I'm sure you've heard of the song by Sarkodie and Kwame Eugene titled Happy Day. If you haven't, where have you been? But that song has been tagged as an endorsement song. While the reigning artist of the year, Kwame Eugene, has come out to speak on the issue. Speaking on Hits FM with Dr. Paz last night, the artist said the song was not and is not a campaign song.
I think what's going on is something that I actually expected after the video shoot. Because...
Sir, what happened for the video shoot?
Maybe I go here, say, I mean, Sak talk na natwa so. Oh, me tell video shoot na say.
Oh, sir. But they ask you to go record it, then, you know, everybody record separate or you record together?
He sent me plus in first verse.
Okay.
So I do the chorus.
Okay.
Oh, listening to his first verse. Because he did talk, my friend Yame, Obe reply Tuesday, things weren't good, now it's okay. Yeah, manage and your makoye kakra kakra. And I felt, okay, he's trying to give thanks to God. So I wrote a Thanksgiving chorus. Everybody, mini nani, yes, so we don't me, see your baby, follow me, it's your baby. But Joe, I give you praise, oh bro. It's me that made nyamiase. And you know, me say nana to us all, and I'm back at management. I know when this song comes out, people are gonna say a campaign song or Chuck is trying to campaign for MPP.
Okay.
So let's just get ready. We shoot song maybe I think me person me kai very day I think say channel Friday also or Friday or Thursday. Now Tuesday they were out. I mean there was little time to go back and forth because video no cry try we. What I say? And now you person you be doing sad so the course of social media. I mean
okay.
It's looking like Yaya campaign song. And when I say Yaya campaign song, I'm saying Yaya because me didn't won't be me gonna be too chorus no. What you say? And see that is when we had to call them, and the reason why I didn't say it out front when I heard that the thing in the song is Sak is a brand on his own. Kwame Eugene is a brand on his own. And you know, artist to artist, no. That is not the kind of conversation I want to start. It was best